So welcome to super full moon. This is the second super full moon actually in Taurus, and I'm a sun sign Taurus, but the moon Taurus sign is totally different. Well, I can't say totally different. They're connected, but we'll be exploring that a little bit today on this call. And so those of you that are here live, welcome. And those of you that are going to be watching the replay, well, welcome too. And the super full moon in Taurus will peak on Wednesday, November 5th, and it's at 8:19 a.m. Eastern Time. So the brightest and the largest full moon that we're going to be having on the 5th, the best viewing time will be on November 4th, the evening, like late in the evening into the early mornings of the, early, maybe first part of the 5th, but I don't want you to stay up that late. So maybe focus on the 4th to view this super full moon. And it's going to be pretty close, like it's going to be about 7% larger than the usual full moon. So certainly be worth it for you to look at this. And in this call, I will be going over two main themes that have come to me intuitively. So I usually just kind of go into a stream of consciousness. Chris knows this, but I go into my studio and then I just kind of immerse myself into the energy of what's happening. So that's what I will be sharing with you today. And for those of you that are new to my work, I'm Masami Covey, and I'm a health intuitive, functional nutritional therapist, and the moon enthusiast. I lead women in rediscovering the wisdom of living with the lunar cycles during and beyond menopause. So I love working with menopause and postmenopausal women. That doesn't mean that you can't join me if you're in perimenopause or premenopause, because there will be nuggets of information that will help you to go through this really major shifts in our lives right around age, 47, maybe 48, into 50s, early 50s. So check this out also. And if you're interested in lunar cycles, learning about moon wisdom and how the moon impacts various organs, systems, hormones, and even fascia, please subscribe to this channel and give me a thumbs up so others can find me in the YouTube universe. And then if you're on this call live, please go back to my YouTube channel after we post the recording and comment. And while you're at it, please give me a thumbs up. So let's get into today's super full moon talk. This super full moon in Taurus, right? This is going to be very, very interesting for you to look at moon from a very different perspectives from the solar side. And you know how Taurus is all about owning things, stuff, maybe house, sometimes concerned about money, stability, security, comfort, nice foods, right? Pleasant experiences. Being a sun sign, that I'm a Taurus sun sign, and I was born on Earth Day, so I'm very much grounded in the earthly matter. But when it comes to the moon in Taurus, it's very different. So I've been saying that, so I'll be going over that here. And even so, this super full moon, what's going to get stirred up in you is that even you have enough right now, and you got plenty of these things that I just mentioned, from security to comfort to nice foods to stability to money and so on and so forth. This super full moon in Taurus may bring out the deep seated subconscious feeling that it's not enough, okay? That you're not enough, what you have is not enough, or that you're missing something. And you may feel a bit uneasy, like you can't really relax or fully claim what you have. Okay, so it's going to kind of flip things upside down for you a little bit. And when you really, really tune into the moon and the moon's energy, it's fascinating what it reveals, because it's not always simple translation from sun sign into the moon sign. Okay, so the theme number one is going to address this right away. Theme for the super full moon number one is faced with a sense of deficit or lack. So faced with a sense of deficit or lack. That is something that you will have to sit with it, dive deeply into during this super full moon. And don't think of super full moon as just like a one-day event, okay? The energy is so strong already. You're going to already feeling this today. And it's going to continue. I suspect, I was looking at the calendar, And I really felt it all the way into maybe end of Thursday for sure. So you have several days that you're going to be really working through this. Maybe goes into early part of the Friday too. Okay, so let's go into this theme number one, right? The sense of lack and deficit. So we may be faced with a vague or maybe in some cases strong sense of lack and not enoughness and the lingering feeling of emptiness or dissatisfaction. Okay, so those are some of the themes that are going to may creep back up during these next several days. Even you know in your mind that you have enough and enough material possessions and money or comfort, there is this nagging feeling of lack and deficit. This super full moon may spotlight your deep-seated dissatisfaction that comes from a sense of not enough, not having enough, lacking. This makes it really hard to completely feel safe, content, or satisfied, right? And hard to relax into and settle into what is here and now. So be a little bit of a stirring that's going to happen. And because it's a super full moon, it will spotlight it brighter than usual. And you may have to face these feelings and really question them during the super full moon. And I actually encourage you to question them if they do come up for you. Okay. Try not to give in to the fear of it. Okay. And then I'll give you some ways that you can work with this in the theme too. But just notice that some of these things are going to probably knock on your inner door. Okay. Pay attention to your reactions from these subconscious patterns. Okay. These are old. Okay. These are definitely old feelings and left over from your childhood, shaping beliefs about what you didn't get enough of, right? Or where you always felt there wasn't enough. There's like areas of your life that didn't feel like it was enough. Maybe for you, this sense of lack shows up when you don't feel heard or acknowledged, or genuine love or warmth are not coming your way, or not coming your way in the way that you prefer or expected, or in a speedy manner, right? So those things are going to be a little bit tough because this is going to be somewhat very young emotions, and that's something that the moon triggers. Moon always triggers the subconscious patterns that you have acquired and maybe placed it onto fascial memories. So the fascia is very important here. Movements are going to be important if you want to release them from age 7 and younger, and usually mother related. Okay. That's hard to avoid with the moon, but the super full moon is definitely going to bring up the childhood, mother related. Okay. And a lot of this lack of whether it's love, understanding, or being heard or acknowledged or being seen, a lot of these. So these are just examples, but they all reflect that deeper place inside where you worry there won't be enough care or understanding, that you worry that nobody's gonna love me, or you worry that oh my gosh, I'm not gonna, nobody's gonna even hear me. I'm gonna be invisible. Those are the, whether that's like you didn't language these things, but you felt it in your cellular memory, in your fascial memory. Okay. So super full moon gives us the opportunity, though. That's how you have to look at the super full moon. You cannot look at this from a fearful standpoint. Okay. Fear is feeling excited and ready. Okay. That's what fear means. Okay. So super full moon gives us the opportunity to recognize these deeply buried inside of our patterns. Okay. Inside patterns. And old stories of lack and not enoughness may lead to, if you're not careful and if you're not conscious and if you're not watching this video or on this live call, it could show up in other people in buying things you don't really need. Okay. Like going on buying spree. Okay. And it's so funny because I was starting to feel a little bit of this and I'm like, it's not even super full moon yet. But I was like, I was really feeling like I need to go shopping. And I'm thinking, shop for what? Like, I don't need anything. But there was just like a weird feeling that it came about this morning already for me. So as I'm writing and as I was intuitively thinking and feeling about this, I thought, whoa, that is already creeping into my psyche. So I need to just ask myself, do I really need to shop? Or do I just need to find ways to relax into this moment a little bit more? And I'll give you some tools for that. And, if the old stories of lack and not enoughness is really there, they can lead to worrying too much about money and possessions. You start to worry and worry and overnight thinking about, oh my gosh, do I have enough? Do I have enough? And that can become paralyzing to you and to you moving forward. Okay. So don't let that angst and worry and fear really take over the next several days, this week. Okay. Just put a stop to it and say, yeah, cosmic influences right now. And I do not need to respond to that in the way that I'm just reacting to it. You can respond to it very carefully and understanding who you are and being very kind to who you are, but find ways not to react. Okay. So the key is realizing that this super full moon is illuminating your hidden imbalances around having plenty of something and not having enough. Okay. That kind of a pull. You're going to be experiencing these pulls. Okay. And also realize that chasing what is lacking leads to further stress and dissatisfaction. Okay. So, I mean, we'll talk about how do we get out of that lack mind because our brains tend to want to go to negativity. We're negativity biased people, right? I mean, the brains tend to work that way. If we didn't notice danger, if we didn't notice lack, if our ancestors did not take care of those things, we wouldn't be here, right? So we tend to have that neural patterning inside us that we tend to go towards the lack and dissatisfaction and towards stress because that's how we somewhat survived also. Okay, so it's not all bad, but I think we want to be a little bit more conscious of our patterns than that. And I'm assuming anybody that's here live or listening to the call, you're here because you have been doing work around that. But moon cycles are so interesting because they will remind you to go back into it over and over and over because the layers are there still. Okay. And this will, so, this type of super full moon's energy on the lack and not enoughness and the fear that gets produced from that, that's going to impact your neck area. Okay. So you know that I'm always going to be connecting with your physiology. So you want to pay attention to the tightness, stiffness of your neck. Maybe some of you are already feeling that. And I would even say, just right at the top of the shoulders area, if you're constantly doing something like this, okay, it's already showing up. Okay. And so posture really matters here. Are you spending way too much in front of the computer? Yes, I am. And Chris is too. But that just really notice that this head weighs about a bowling ball. Okay. That's a lot. That's heavy. So there's a lot of pressure that goes into having to hold your head up right. So if you're constantly forward, constantly leaning towards the computer, or you're looking at something like this, that puts a whole lot of stress on your neck. And when your head is in that position, it's really hard to create peace and calmness. Okay. And I'm probably going to hand it over to Chris and see if he can briefly talk about that head position. Would you mind kind of talking about that stress position that we talk about often?
The stress position of our heads dropping forward and becoming like a bowling ball and a toothpick. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. And then also it's this motion too.
Yeah. Well, just
But
from
mm,
a nervous system standpoint, this is something you might have heard us say before. It's a very old piece of information. But when we're stressed, our bodies go into what's called sympathetic slump. Okay, the sympathetic slump. So you can imagine really just walk around on the street and you can see people with their chin is jutting forward. A lot of people that are on their phone are already in that position, just kind of looking down, and they get this C shape to their spine where their head is dropping forward, their hips are forward, they've got a curved upper back. And that's what happens to us when we're in sympathetic fight or flight mode. Okay, so actually that's what we're expressing with that body shape. And so when we're in that shape, we don't take in other information that's not survival oriented, meaning whatever we believe or sense is important for us getting through from this moment to the next. That's how a lot of us are living most of the time. We're just in this survival state and it's showing up in our bodies. And if we don't take a moment and feel that and correct it, take a breath, stand up straight. We talked about, Masami has talked a lot about imagining you have a tail and fluffing it up. because that helps to increase our posture to a fuller position, which is more how we're built to stand and deal with whatever is coming. Okay,
And also, yeah, thanks for doing that, Chris, because I think that really matters to your nervous system, how your posture is, where your head position is. So kind of no wonder, right? That everybody feels overwhelmed. So many people you speak to, and it seems like any age seems like right now is that when your head position is like this and in the forward motion, it's really hard to remain peaceful and calm and content because there's this like, oh my gosh, what's there? Fearful. How do I get through it? And then you round yourself and you protect yourself. And then so things come at you in your life and you can't really address that with your openness and open heartness. Okay. So your head position matters. And so everyone, let's just take a moment right now and press the top of your head with one of your hands. You can even place both. And then press the seventh chakra up against so your top of your head, crown of your head up towards the palm of your hands. Okay, so you're matching the pressure with the hands or hand pressing onto the top of your head and top of your head reaching towards that hand. And then try it with the one hand now and just keep doing that. Good. Take a breath and pull your chin in a little bit. Good. And then go ahead and release and just sit there for a moment like that. It instantly adjusts your head position. Okay, so it's a really simple tool. You don't need anything. You don't need a fancy tool anywhere. Okay, so that's something you can do. And let's go into the neck and the throat area just a little bit, and then I'll go into the theme too. Okay. So in Japanese language and in English language too, but Japanese language, we have this saying that called kubi ga mawaranai, means I cannot turn the neck or I can't rotate the head, kind of a thing. What that means is that when you have too much worry about money and possession, not enoughness, we say, I can't turn or rotate my head, turn the neck. Okay. In English language, right, we have I am up to my neck in debt, right? So we have a lot of the expressions around the neck. I am drowning in debt. Well, drowning means you're covered in water almost to here, isn't it? Right? Past the neck point. So we do have words like that in English too, but body parts matter. So when we are fearful, when we feel lacking, when we do not have the sense of not in, we don't have enough, not enoughness, then that's definitely going to show up on your neck. And our ancestors already knew that. That's why they use words like that. I cannot turn the neck. Okay. So really turning the neck, turning your head, okay, means you're able to look around, right? You're able to take in the environment. So what that means is that if you're not feeling safe enough, if you don't have the relaxedness, you don't look around. Have you noticed that? Like when people are walking like in New York City, okay, at like 8 in the morning, maybe 7 in the morning, 8, 9 in the morning, everybody's just straight, just they're not looking around, they're just looking at slightly downward on the road so they don't bump into anybody and they're just heading straight to something, right? So they don't have the relaxedness enough to look around. So moving your head, moving your neck, see what you can do to relax the neck. That's going to be very helpful during this super full moon. So pay attention to that. And another thing is that the losing your voice, right? When you don't feel enough, you don't feel like you're being heard. Well, what's the point of expressing yourself? So you feel like you're losing your voice or choked up. Sometimes we'll say I feel choked up in here, right? So full of emotion or worry that you find it hard to speak, right? That's choking up. So it's all in this fifth chakra region. It's related to your voice and in your neck connection, and it's also to your thyroid. And the thyroid's main job is to regulate your metabolism, your energy expenditures, body temperature, also heart rate as well, digestion too, but metabolism is the key. So when you're choking at the neck, okay, you cannot move your head and your neck can no longer turn or rotate. You can't take in any new nourishment, support, or ideas. Okay. Hard to motivate yourself when your thyroid is shut up and then shut down. Okay. Or operating at the suboptimal level. Okay. Because you are dealing with the immediate fear of lack. Okay. So then the thyroid has to take on that role to try to keep you going, keep your energy flowing, keep you metabolizing life. But when your thyroid isn't working properly, you can't metabolize your own old beliefs or patterns and eliminate them. Okay. The key is that you have to metabolize your traumas, old patterns, these fears, lack, whatnot, and you have to eliminate them through expressions, through pooping, through sweating, through movements, through breathing. Okay. Breath is one of the biggest ways that you can release some of these patterns too. That's why breath work is really important. And focusing on your exhales becomes so important in this case. Okay. And during my most recent monthly supplement coaching call that I did, I talked about the connections between thyroid and sex hormones. So if you were in that call, please review that information because that's really important. It's a one of those information, one of those things that the people are not talking about. People are only talking about thyroid and they're not connecting with the imbalance of your estrogen and progesterone, right? So make sure you review that and check your hormones. Okay. Check in with your hormones. How are you supporting your hormones as you go into longer and longer into postmenopause? If you're not helping your progesterone, if you're not helping your estrogen balance, then your thyroid cannot get fully healthy. That's one thing that you may want to bring up with your doctor too if you are dealing with Hashimoto's or maybe hypothyroidism or maybe you have symptoms but it's not showing up on the blood test yet. You need to bring up this issue of the sex hormones and how that interacts with your thyroid functions. Okay, so the first theme was right connected to the your lack and deficit, and a lot of it comes from a lot of it come from yeah a lot so a lot of it come from the your childhood issues. Okay, so really do get into that and then just sit with it. Nothing's going to bite you. It's you. It's safe being you. Okay, and then that's one thing that you want to work on is, are you safe in you? Okay, within you. That's very important when you're doing these kind of a deep inquiries for yourself. Okay, so let's think about how we can maybe overcome these things and maybe shift some of these patterns. I've already kind of talked about the neck things, the head position, and balancing your thyroid, all that. But this next theme is I'm kind of made it into this sentence or this little phrase. So challenge your old beliefs by expanding your five senses. Okay. And if you've been following my work, I love five senses, right? I think we have a tendency in the spiritual communities or even in when you start to go into cosmic level stuff and then into the lunar cycles and things, we forget the five senses and we want to get into the sixth and seventh and eighth senses. That's sometimes it's so much fun to kind of fly outside of your body, move out of your body, and then go into that. But you know me, I like to bring you back to five senses over and over and over because we are here now on this earth. And five senses make living on this earth so much more rich, okay, and exciting and powerful. Okay, so let's come back to your five senses. And this is done through relaxing into and settling into what you already possess and what is already present. So you don't need to go out there and then look for ways that you need to purchase to get your five senses to go up. Okay, it's just look around in your space. So let's go through some examples that I've come up with. So sight, seeing, right? Take in beauty, right? This is such a beautiful time of the year. For most of you in Northern Hemisphere, the colors are changing. Leaves are, I love watching the leaves blow and, shed themselves from the branches. And then it's just this whole thing. And then also, I mean, this is a sound part, but I love crunching on those leaves. I would choose the path that has lots of leaves on them and I just crunch them. And then Chris knows this. Chris, by the way, for those of you that are new, Chris is my husband, but he knows this. But I love stepping on pine cones. That's one of my favorite things to do when I go hiking. I just take my funny steps and I crunch them and crunch them. And sometimes he knows that I love crunching them. So he will kick the pine cone down for me. And then so I get the really good crunch with that. And I just love doing that kind of thing. Okay. But coming back to the site, take in beauty. Okay. Look at art, maybe, right? maybe even going to an art museum could be interesting. Maybe a local art exhibits. We have one of those like art groups and things that small local ones that they exhibit their artwork too. Or you can go to a cafe that has maybe different artwork too, right? The best thing is to go to nature, walk in nature, be in nature, sit by a tree, let the tree just hold you. Calming colors. So, calming colors can be very different for each and every one of us. So, find the colors that really work with you. Maybe they're different gemstones that have different colors that will really speak to you. But that's really up to you, up to you. And let those gemstones be bathed by the super full moon light too. This is great, 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 great time. And I would recommend that maybe find a glass or like a pitcher that's made with glass in different colors. And maybe you have a red one. I have a red one, and I have a clear ones, but I have another blue color ones too. You could put some water in there and then let that water bathe in that sun, not the sun, but the moonlight overnight, and you can have that water in the morning. Okay, so that would be a great way to introduce yourself to the site, but you get to drink that colors inside. Right, so you're kind of a full body experience with the site too. And maybe look at your grandkids' faces or photos. Okay, decorate your space with the beauty and love. Okay, and let's go into sound. I have shared some of it already, but listen to your favorite music and dance around. Okay. Super full moon, wolves are out. Okay. We have lots of coyotes. They're howling a lot already. And we have a couple of coyotes that come up to our yard almost every single day and take a nap, on our yard. Just really great to watch them. But, just be that animal spirit. Okay. And so dance around, play music that you haven't played in a while. Okay. And I love actually playing music that I grew up in Japan. And Chris knows this, but I would sometimes just crank up my old Japanese songs and tears coming down. I'm just, singing, nostalgic. Great. I love that. Nostalgia has its own place for this. Okay. So have nostalgic moments. Okay. And sing and humming is so good, right? Because vagus nerve is going to love you because you're humming. Humming is the greatest way to calm the nervous system, but to really exercise your vagus nerve. And your nervous system will appreciate you for humming. And nature sounds, absolutely. Birds to leaves to maybe ocean sounds to, walking on the beach, every one of those things. Like really deeply pay attention because they're the music to your ears. And comforting voices, that's good too. Practice mindful listening. And mindful listening can be listening to your friend, okay? But mindful listening can be listening to yourself too. And I actually encourage people to speak to yourself. Like I talk to myself quite often because your own voice it's one of the most healing sounds out there is your own voice. Okay. So your recorded voice is a little strange to yourself, but you can actually sing a lullaby to yourself, maybe old children's songs to yourself. Those are great. I love it. We're already nuts anyway. So let the other people think that you're already nuts, right? So don't be shy humming and singing. So smell will be enjoy pleasant scents. So cooked foods, and I love one of my favorite smells of this world is freshly cooked white rice. When that, rice cooker steamer opens, yeah, Lily, yeah, I could see you going, yes, right? Us Asians know what that means. You don't need to explain anymore. We get it. We get it. You open the rice cooker and you go, oh my God, the starchy white rice smell. So you might have something that you love. Okay. Spend some time outdoors noticing natural smells, the leaves decomposing, the fall smell. It's very different, so different than the summer smell. That's going to get your nervous system to be ready for the fall. Also, you want to get your five senses to tune into the seasons because we live in a world that is mostly, what, 74 degrees inside and no changes in the seasons inside. That's how most of us live. If we work in the office spaces, that's how we live, right? So expose yourself to the cool air that touches your skin and then the smell of the fall. Okay. And if you're in the southern hemisphere, go for the smell of the spring coming in. Okay. Smell is strongly connected to your childhood memories. I don't know many of you know this, but it's directly connected to the childhood memories. And it's actually also very stimulating and calming to our first chakra. the smell is. Okay. So, because the olfactory system is directly linked to your amygdala and hippocampus, so your smell senses are connected to the center part of the brain, which are the brain's emotion and memory center. That's why the smell is really, really important. Okay. So, when you're walking, smelling, kind of reflect in a nostalgia. I keep bringing that word up, but bring back some of these memories because that way you can get back in touch with that very young self. Okay. And then begin to get to know her again, get to know him again. All right. So, two more senses. Taste will be savoring food and drink slowly. I was drinking a glass of water really slowly as I was writing this. Oh my God, there was just all these wonderful, like complex taste that came about. I mean, it's just water, but sweetness came back inside my mouth. There was a sense of like minerally feelings. There's a sense of like, oh, satiating. This is definitely quenching my thirst. There's a lot that happened to me because I slowed down and I wasn't just chugging the water like I normally do, right? And notice flavors and textures. So try maybe foods that are not all soft and mushy, right? Over the super full moon. Eat things that are crunchy. Eat things that are like a little bit more, maybe gives you a chance to chew a little bit more. Okay. And exercise your mouth, exercise the jaw. And by exercising the jaw, that relaxes your neck too. So isn't it interesting that our food industry has become all soft and, you know, smooth and like things that you don't have to chew? You can almost finish your meal in 3 bites, like three chews these days. Put the food in, chew, chew, chew 3 times and swallow. And sometimes Chris and I at the airport, we will watch people eat and we will do a game. Okay, do you think how many times is he going to chew that hamburger? And Chris will be like, maybe 4. And I'll be like, maybe 6. And we're usually disappointed because usually it's like 3, you know. So please chew your food a little bit more. And one of the things that I know this sounds so crazy to accept to Asians, but I love squids. So I eat squid jerky a lot. And I'll just get the hardest one out there and I'll just be chewing on that. But you could do that with beef jerky. Okay. Some other jerky if you want to. Okay. So that's what I recommend for tasting. More you chew, the more like complex stuff will come out. Okay. Be mindful of how you're eating and chewing. Okay. And touch. The last one is feel different textures and physical sensations. So, different clothing. It's a sweater season now here in Colorado, so I'm loving it. Soft blankets, maybe warm bath. Okay. Pet an animal, pet your animals. Okay. Just really have fun with it, both directions, and go, oh, this feels different this way, this way. Okay. Tail's different than the top of the head. Okay. So, kind of really get involved in it. Okay. And this is the time of the year that I love touching the silver flower plumes that Japanese Suzuki grass produce. So there are these particular Japanese grass that it just gets this beautiful flower out. It's feathery, airy, and these clusters of airy flowers. So we have a Japanese garden in the backyard and in the front. So I walk by and I'm always just touching them. I love touching that part of the grass. So find things like that in nature. Okay. When you are actively engaged with your 5 senses, bring in the feeling of safety, security, peacefulness, enoughness in the moment. Okay. You can't tell your mind to be peaceful. You can't. You can't tell it to calm down and tell it that it's safe and it's secure. You have to use your 5 senses because by doing these things, you will naturally sink into a place of kind of the exhale, a place of right? The happens. Okay. So use your 5 senses. That's the gifts that were given to us from the beginning of our lives. And if you have the sights that you can still see, use them. If you can hear them, still use them and continue to use them. Okay. Okay. And in addition to the 5 senses, gently shift your focus so you can finally feel more relaxed, settled, and content with what you already possess and what is already present. I think that's really, really important. And 5 senses will help you do that because you're doing these exercises with what's already here. Okay. And remember that the wealth is not always about material possessions. I know I probably don't even need to say this to all of you. You know this. but it's the friendship, right? And comfortable home. It's a community. It's comfortable bed. It's a beautiful park you get to walk to. It's the your own inner knowing space and your great big space of intuition, the connection you have with your who you are, connections that you have with your ancestors. Those are all the wealth that we need to be possessing and in knowing and paying attention to. Okay. So we have that. So in really deeper sense, are we really enough? The world tells you you're not enough. World has told you you're not enough from the moment you came into this world. You're not enough. You're not enough. Okay. I mean, I came into this world with no hair in a Japanese hospital with all the babies with a full set of black hair, right? It's just like I felt like I did not have enough because my hair just wasn't really growing in the speed that everybody else's hair was growing. That's just a silly example, but it's like even a baby, I'm sure I picked up on some of this because I remember people always commenting about that about me. Even later on, it's like, oh yeah, you were born with no hair. It's like, yeah, okay, great, thanks, but I have hair now, so can we move on? So enoughness, it's enough. Okay, it is enough in this moment. So I want you to feel that. Put your hands on your heart. You are enough. First of all, let's start with that. You are enough. Yeah, so during this super full moon week, instead of reaching for more and set goals and achieving and, maybe reflecting on what I didn't get done and what did not come about and what I need to manifest next, acquiring more. Take some time to connect with your five senses, connect with your heart center, and define what gives you the sense of safety, security, peace of mind, and plentifulness. And focus on what is here and what you already have and already who you are. Because you've come a long way. All of us have. We've come a long way to be here today. Okay. And pay attention to your physical movements, especially around your head position, shoulders, and the neck. And how are you using your voice? And how's your thyroid health? Okay. All right, so that's what I have, and thank you so much. And for those of you that are in the live call, we will continue. But for those of you that are watching the replay, thank you for watching, and don't forget to give me thumbs up and then follow my work. And I look forward to being with you again soon. Thank you.